Welcome back to the Harmony Inspired Health podcast. Today we're diving deep into why most diets fail and why almost any diet could have worked. If you've ever felt stuck in the endless cycle of restriction, frustration, and regaining the weight, this episode is for you. And I am joined by Jo Hoy, a coach who helps women eat more, exercise less, and create lasting, sustainable weight loss. With a background in surgery and years of coaching experience, Jo has helped over 1,000 women ditch restrictive dieting, rebuild their metabolism, and shift their identity. Because weight loss is about so much more than just food and workout. Welcome to the podcast, Jo.
Wow, I don't even think we need to do the podcast at this point. You just hit the nail on the head for everything, and I guess we can wrap it up. No, thank you, though. I'm really happy to be here and really happy to help spread this message just because it's so meaningful to me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dive deep into this because I work in women's health. I work in women's hormonal health, specialize in that. And through the perimenopause to menopause phase, like women in the 40s, like who you work with, this is a common phase where they start to see their weight incline and asking for answers, and what once worked for them is no longer working. And so there's so much confusion around how to sustainably lose weight, how to keep it off, how to support our metabolism whilst we're going through this transition. So how did you get into the dieting culture of women in their 40s anyway?
Yeah, number one. So I'm going to get into that, but real quick, that's actually what brought me to where I am today, is seeing all that confusion. Because having coached for 7 years, it was just painful to see primarily these women that we're talking about right now show up day after day and just feel so lost and confused and in blaming it on themselves rather than the diets. And I was like, you know what, something needs to be done. So I kind of taken a stance against diets. But the bigger elephant in the room, how did this 31-year-old male get into helping women primarily for the last few years, 40, 50, and 60 plus? And it kind of starts when I was 13 years old. My mom was my strongest, most consistent role model. I'm an only child. I have 2 stepbrothers. They were in and out of the house. And so some weekends they'd be with me. Some weekends they'd be at their mom's. Oftentimes it was just her and I, or her and I and her friends. And around the age of 13, she saw that I was going down 2 bad paths. Number one, I was starting to get picked on and bullied because I was really tall, really skinny, not that great at school, uncoordinated, not good at sports, not really good at anything. And so people just found an opportunity to kind of pick on me, and that was really affecting my mental health. And at the same time, I was starting to hang with the wrong kids, do some pretty dumb stuff, and really going down a path that was going to lead me to nowhere. And my mom saw both of those. She had already been going to the gym to take care of herself. And one day after work, she came home and said, "Jo, I'm going to the gym. I think it'd be a good idea if you came too." And it was a very clear answer of yes to me because, again, I was getting picked on. I wasn't happy. And the guys at the gym had muscles. They had confidence. They definitely weren't getting picked on. And so that seemed like the obvious route for me to go. So I go to the gym, absolutely fall in love with it. But from the ages of 13 to 18, my body doesn't change at all. I work out as hard as I can. I eat as much as I can. And I just simply just don't gain weight. I just stay the same. So the one thing that does change is my mental health and where I'm going in life. So I stopped making the poor choices. I stopped hanging out with those kids. And really, my mom changed the trajectory of my life by dragging me into the gym. So I stopped making bad choices, but from 13 to 18, I'm still getting picked on. It gets really, really bad. I end up getting pushed down 2 flights of stairs, and the kid that pushed me down the stairs lands on me at the bottom and is about to start beating me up. Is just a signal of how bad it got. But I graduate school, I go off to college, I start pursuing a career in the medical field, and I'm trying to work in surgery. So with that, I have to take these courses on anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, nutrition, all things that help change the human body and help me understand the human body. And so I turn into my first guinea pig and I start doing everything right. But at the same time, I'm also an 18-year-old boy away from home at college. So you can probably guess what comes next. And I start partying and drinking and treating my body poorly. And I go from 5'11", 145 pounds, very thin. And in the span of like a year to a year and a half, I balloon up to 225. And so now I have a new problem. I'm no longer skinny and not confident. Now I'm overweight and not confident. And I still don't like myself. I don't like who I am, how I look, still uncoordinated, still not great at sports. So I just say enough is enough. I kick the partying. I dial in everything I know to be true about creating change in the human body. And I finally reached what I wanted around 22 or 23. And then I come home from college and everybody starts to notice, like, well, wow, Joe, you were really thin. You had no confidence. You wouldn't look us in the eye. Then you were overweight. The same thing was true. Now I don't even recognize you. And I don't mean physically. I mean how you present. You're confident. You're funny. Like, I've never seen this side of you. How'd you do it? And I had enough people ask to where I was like, wow, I think I'm onto something. Maybe I can help other people avoid the struggles that I had. And so transparently, I thought I wanted to help people like me, young men, lose body fat or gain muscle, and ultimately just feel better in their skin. So I start running and promoting these online weight loss challenges on my Facebook and Instagram. I get all these people to sign up, but I never look at the names. And on day one, when I open up Zoom and start coaching these people, I look at the faces that invested in me and invested in themselves, and nobody looks like me. Everybody looks like, yes, they all look like my mom. And I was like, oh, shit, like, what did I just get myself into? And how did I get myself into it? But I came to the conclusion that growing up with my mom as my role model and all of her friends, I learned to communicate in a way that resonates with them. And so naturally, I dragged them in. At the end of the first call, we're all laughing and having fun. At the end of the first 8 weeks, everybody gets great results. And I was like, you know what? I don't care if this is not what I thought I wanted. I love it. And so for the next 5, 6, 7 years, that's what I've done. And then kind of the final piece to the puzzle is, as I started that, I wasn't very profitable. I actually lost money in the first few challenges. So I'm still working in surgery. My job was a surgical technologist, basically in the operating room I worked in. We were so small, we didn't have residents, we didn't have PAs. So I would come in, set up the OR, but during the procedure, I would also help the doctor do just about anything they couldn't do with their own 2 hands. And so again, getting pushed in this direction by God, by fate, by the universe, whatever you want to call it, it was myself and 7 other girls on the surgical team that had my role. The higher ups thought it was going to be an amazing idea to take the one male and stick him inside the OB and GYN based rooms. And so again, here I am, 40 hours a week, on-call emergency surgery, working on the female body next to these doctors that dedicated their entire adult career to understanding it. And so now I'm like, well, I'm here, I might as well learn. And so I'm proactively taking all this knowledge and stealing it from them and applying it to my clients outside of surgery. And it's kind of the 3-part story. I learned that if I want to change a boy's life like mine, the best way to do it is to change the mom's life, because it's going to trickle down into theirs. I also just want to give back to my mom. I enjoy doing this, and I understand the female body probably better than the majority of trainers and coaches out there.
I love that. I love that story on 2 parts, because I'm a mum of twin boys. They very much love their mum. So I love that story. And also from an Ayurvedic perspective, you know, sometimes our dharmic path, it chooses us. It really pushes us in that direction when we're in alignment with our higher self. And so although you thought you may have been working with 30-year-old males, it's really pushed you in a different direction. And I love that too. So yeah, I'm so happy that you have taken this path and helped women, because it is such a big thing. And I think for women in that age bracket, I mean, most of us grew up like in the 90s, 80s, 90s, where it was that era of being super, super thin, super skinny was like the only way. And so you've always sort of got these images in your head of what that ideal body looked like. And then it went to having more of a stronger physique and, you know, harden the F up type of thing and muscle gain. I don't know, that's what it was like in Australia anyway. Yeah. And so we're sort of like trying to always like keep up with these trends. And then you get to this age and there's just no trend you can keep up with, because everything, all the rules are just blown out of the water for many reasons, hormones and all the things. And so many people in this age bracket, they do struggle with weight loss. And you say that most diets don't work, but also that nearly any diet could have worked. Can you break this down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And so from my perspective, most diets that anybody's going to think of, right? So when we say diet, we're probably thinking of some fad, some trend. They're not realistic. They're usually not very healthy, in my opinion, but they do create weight loss, right? And so they help with weight loss. They just don't help with weight maintenance. And that's what I think so many things are missing, right? And so oftentimes I'll get on a podcast and somebody's like, well, what do you think of keto? What do you think of carnivore? What do you think of intermittent fasting? Personally, I'm not a huge fan of any of them, but I think that the best diet is the one that works for somebody long-term. And so if somebody finds a way to sustainably live the rest of their life doing keto, carnivore, or intermittent fasting, and they can maintain their health doing it, more power to you. Go ahead and do it. But what I think is missing from so many, or what I think happens in so many diets, is that not only does somebody borrow the nutritional habits of that diet, not only does somebody borrow the exercise habits of that diet, they also borrow the identity of somebody that is successful long-term. But as soon as the diet stops, that identity goes away too. And then they're left with who they were before, their thoughts, their actions, their behaviors. And we understand that those thoughts, actions, and behaviors are exactly what got them to where they didn't want to be in the first place. And so, yes, you need to find a diet that works for you, but you also need to create an identity that serves you long-term.
Absolutely. And from like the Ayurvedic perspective, we look at the individual constitution of everyone who we work with. So you're never, ever prescribing the same type of quote unquote diet to anyone, because someone who is more of a Vata constitution, if you got them to do intermittent fasting and fast till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like that's going to cause havoc on so many other things, their hormones, their mental health. Whereas a Kapha type of person could deal with that better. However, if they were going to intermittent fast, we usually would say do it overnight when you're asleep most of the time, like especially in this age bracket. And for a Pitta constitution, like they have a more of a muscular physique, so they also have different requirements. And I think sometimes as women, we always try to fit ourselves into the pigeonhole of sort of what the newest trend is and what looks great on the front of like the magazines or on social media these days. And so it's really important to understand your individual constitution. But as you mentioned, one of the hugest part is that identity piece. So how does someone need to see themselves differently to create real lasting change?
Yeah, that's a good question. And before I get into that, like, I would love to personally learn more about the Ayurvedic side of things. I do have a strong tie to spirituality, the universe, and I think that somehow those two have their own connection. So maybe we're going to get you on my show and you can teach me next.
Yeah.
But one practice I really like to put in place is when I talk with a new client, right? And so transparently, when we get a one-on-one client, I have 2 coaches inside the business that are just amazing at creating a nutrition and exercise plan that fits with that person, right? So it sounds like it almost would align similar to how you're explaining this in an Ayurvedic perspective. But what I'll do is I'll dive in and we'll start creating that identity. And so what I like to point out is that I believe there's a version of every single person in the future that already exists. And that version has everything that that person wants. So we just need to step into that version of themselves, because right now they already know what they have. They have a body that maybe it doesn't feel good. Maybe it's unhealthy. Maybe it's sick. Maybe it doesn't fit in the clothes that they want, or it doesn't have a level of energy that they desire. And because all that is true, they're acting in certain ways. They're thinking in certain ways. They're behaving in certain ways. And so now what I want to do is I want to have that same conversation with this person and look ahead to the future version of themselves and say, okay, dream come true world. I snap my fingers and now you have everything that you want. You have the body that you desire. You have the self-worth that you desire. You have the level of health you desire, the functionality, everything. You have it. Now close your eyes for 5 minutes and think about this. How are you going to be acting once you have those things? And so oftentimes they'll open their eyes back up and they'll say, well, I'm speaking up for myself. I'm setting boundaries. I am going to the gym X amount of times a week. I'm eating these foods that I know serve me, but I also enjoy. And I'm thinking and acting and behaving in these certain ways. And so this is when I flip the script on them and I surprise them and I say, well, guess what? You are actually not thinking, acting, behaving in these ways because you have these things. You have these things in the future because you've begun to think, act, and behave these ways today. And that's what created the result. And so once they realize that the result is a effect or a cause of their behaviors, Well, now it's very easy to start creating that because they've actually just outlined exactly how they need to act to get that result.
And I guess that can be the reality of the hard truth for some women as well. And it could be hard to approach that when you first start seeing and consulting with them. So have you had any sort of like tips on how to get women to see this as such an important step in their journey, as opposed to maybe like being in a bit of denial? Or, I mean, even for myself, I know sometimes they say, oh, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm eating. And I'm thinking, is it though? You're thinking, that sounds really good. Sounds like we don't need to change a lot. But, there's obviously things that we do need to change. So we need to dive a little bit deeper. And so do you have that sort of process of diving deeper with these women into what is like sort of really that sort of underlying cause and what that might be for some of these type of people?
We do. That's always a very individual basis. And a lot of times it goes back to learned behaviors when they were a child, a teenager, or a young adult. And so then we have to start, number one, understanding where this comes from. Number two, giving them permission to be different now than they were as a kid, and to give that kid some space and be like, you know what, that was okay now, but it's not serving us today. And so we're going to change. And it's just these little baby steps, because a lot of what we're talking about right now is terrifying, scary, uncomfortable, and thinking ahead to the future of like, wow, I need to change so much in order to become this person. It's like, well, maybe that's true, but you don't need to do that today. Today, you just need to act very slightly different in one way, not in 10 ways. And then let's see how that impacts you tomorrow. And we just start stacking these small wins over and over. And now when you look back in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months, you're almost unrecognizable. But the effort that you put in is minimal every day.
Yeah. And I think one of the other sort of huge misconceptions is that women believe that more cardio equals more fat loss. And I've actually seen this in my career within health. I've done many, many modalities. And one of those was a personal trainer, yoga teacher, Pilates teacher. And I used to teach boot camps. And I would often see women coming in and flogging it out like day after day and not really losing the weight. And then I would go to these yoga Pilates classes and there would be sort of, these women with stronger, sort of beautiful physiques. I'm like, well, what are they doing when they're not in these classes? Because, I'm seeing both sides of the spectrum here. And so I would really love to speak on this and hear from your perspective about cardio versus strength training and what impact that has on metabolism and weight loss. And I mean, even for me, myself, I do love a good cardio session, I must admit. Like, that is within my constitution, something I like for my mental health, for freeing. And I do feel like I love that sort of sweat and that burn. And so I integrate that with strength and Pilates, and I do something different every single day. So I'm not against cardio. I actually do really enjoy it. But I would like to hear from you for women that are punishing themselves with cardio because they think that's the only way for them to lose weight.
Yeah, absolutely. And super well said, because personally, I love a good cardio session from time to time for mental health as well. It just makes me feel amazing the rest of the day. And that's great. But what we need to understand is, and you said this perfectly to set me up for this, so thank you. A lot of women think that cardio equals more fat loss. And you know what? It certainly doesn't equal more fat loss. What it may equal is more weight loss, but we need to understand that weight loss is not what people are after, right? Because if I could snap my fingers and tell you that every single listener is now at their goal weight, but they lost all of their muscle and kept all of their fat, I guarantee you they're not happy. And I also guarantee you that if you focus on cardio and not strength training, that's what's going to happen. And it's a nightmare, because we understand that as you lose muscle, you lose your ability to eat a normal amount of calories without gaining weight. And now you're stuck eating like a bird. And if you eat any other way, you're going to gain the weight back, right? And so that's terrifying. And so what we understand is that as you're doing cardio, you're signaling to your body that it needs to become more efficient. And the way that your body becomes efficient is by getting rid of muscle. And so yes, you're watching the scale go down, but it's not what you want. The other thing that really specifically to this population is that at the age of 40, we understand that women are losing muscle mass at a rate of 1% year after year if they do nothing. Now, Once they get to 50, that rate doubles. They're losing 2% year after year. And once they hit 60, that rate doubles. And now it's 4% year after year. So without even adding cardio to the conversation, you're losing muscle. And as soon as you add cardio, you're just speeding up that process that is already not helpful to you. And so you hit the nail on the head before of like, yes, cardio is great. It can be fun. It's great for mental health and you need it for cardiovascular health, but it's not the move for weight loss. What we want to do there is strength training, because as we lift heavy weights or as we resist gravity, we don't even need to lift heavy weights. We can use body weight, bands, and then weights eventually. We're signaling to our body, hey, we're using these muscles. And so that means we're going to probably need them tomorrow. So if we're in a calorie deficit and we're losing weight, you cannot get rid of these muscles because we're going to need them. So the only thing left to get rid of is fat. And so that's how now you reach your goal weight, or maybe guess what? You don't even reach that goal weight. You're 5-10 pounds heavier than you thought you wanted to be, but you look way better than you ever imagined. You feel way better. And that's what we're after.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said about the muscle mass loss over those age spans is so crucial and so important for women to understand, because as we age, our estrogen does decline. Now, estrogen is really responsible for our cardiovascular health, but our bone health and our muscle health and all of those things that support our metabolism and our weight loss journey. And so it is approached differently in women this age. And so you did talk about the amazing things that strength training can do, but how exactly is it impacting metabolism different to other workouts?
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's just compare this as black and white as we can. If somebody does an hour-long run on the treadmill, then they're going to be burning calories for that entire hour that they're running. And as soon as they get off and their heart rate comes back down, they go back to the same amount of calorie burn as they were before they stepped on. But now let's have somebody, that same person, go through a strength training workout. And now they're burning calories throughout that workout because they're exerting themselves, but also because they've just done resistance training and created these micro tears in their muscles, their body now needs to rebuild for the next 24 to 48 hours as a rough guess. And so inside that time frame, you're still elevating the amount of calories you burn while at rest, because your body, while you're resting, is working to rebuild those muscles. And so you actually burn calories for a longer time by lifting some weights.
And so what are you seeing? Is there anything other than like the cardio component that you're seeing in your practice as being mistakes that women are making with exercise when they're trying to lose weight, or even diet, if you want to bring that in?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just stay on exercise for now. But another big one I see is it doesn't even matter if you're doing cardio or strength training and you're strength training properly. If you're doing too much of it, you're digging yourself a hole, right? Because we understand that exercise as a whole actually really isn't that good for us. It's a stress. It makes us worse. The only reason that exercise makes us better or becomes a good thing is when we pair that exercise with the adequate amount of recovery, right? Because as I just explained, as we weight train, we create these little tears in our muscles. And by definition, a tear is breaking us down. And so if all we did was exercise, all we're going to do is break our body down. But the part where we get better is when we rest, because those micro tears get a little bit stronger every single time. And so if we recover more than we exercise, we're getting better each time. And so the next piece to this is if I can talk somebody into getting off the treadmill and getting in the weight room, now I need to talk them into exercising a little bit less. So maybe it's 2, 3, or 4 days a week, not 5, 6, or 7. And that makes a massive difference, number one, in results that they see, but number two, in how they feel day to day.
And would that be 2 to 4 sort of more higher intense sessions, like heavier weights, and then maybe they can walk on their rest days? Like how are you sort of seeing that play out in reality?
Yeah, absolutely. You just nailed it. So 2 to 4 heavier sessions, really lifting weights heavy. And then after that, I don't want somebody to just be sedentary for the off days, right? Our bodies are not meant to be sedentary. It's going to be more detrimental than anything else, especially for our mental health. So on those days, go do something you like, right? Garden, go for a walk, go golfing, do something light on your body, but just make sure that you're taking it easy and you're letting it recover.
And I think it's also a good time where you can actually invite more joy and fun into your life. So it's a physical activity that you really enjoy, or being able to invite that into your life, where a lot of women, especially in this age group, sort of, they're just stuck in this sort of perpetuating rut on cycle and aren't doing a lot of fun things for themselves because they're always doing things for other people. So it is a chance to be like, hey, why don't I try that dance class that I thought that I might enjoy? Or I've just started with the family, we started doing pickleball on a Sunday
So
randomly.
fun.
It's been so much fun. I'm like, I'm loving pickleball. And my husband said the other day, he's like, oh, I want to take you like to do golf. And I've always been like, no way, golf would be so boring. But I'm thinking, no, you know what? Like, I'm going to try it. I think it could be really fun, actually, because I'd be so bad at it, but it would still be fun. I'd still be walking around, swinging my arms, doing all the things. So, yeah.
Yeah, be careful with golf. It's way more fun to suck at pickleball than it is to suck at golf. So
Okay.
you seem like a really happy, smiley person. Just maintain that through all 9 or 18 holes and you're good.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for the tip. And Jo,
Yeah.
you created something called the diet detox. So what does that actually mean, and how is it different from traditional dieting?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the diet detox is really a play on words, right? Two very trendy words, diet and detox. But what I'm talking about is actually detoxifying somebody's body from the damage that past diets have done, and then detoxifying somebody's mind from the damage that past diets have done, right? And so if we look at it from the diet perspective, we understand that if you're in this super low calorie diet, right, let's say 1,200 calories, even 13 or 1,400 calories or less, then again, you could be losing weight, but that deficit is so big for you, and you're probably not getting the adequate amounts of protein that your body needs, that you're experiencing weight loss, not fat loss. And again, that means you're losing muscle, which means you're losing your ability to eat a normal amount of food without gaining weight later on. And so oftentimes what we'll see is these diets are so restrictive that they're nearly impossible to stick to. And so what happens is they experience weight loss in the form of some fat and some muscle leaving the body. They fall off the diet. They go back to eating how they were. And now when they gain the weight back, they're not gaining that same ratio of muscle and fat. They're only gaining fat back. And so now they're at the same weight with more fat and less muscle. And every time they diet, it happens again and again and again. And so that means it gets harder and harder and harder to lose weight. And so what I actually did, I created a quiz on this because so many women were experiencing it. I needed to find a way to diagnose them simply. And so it's just called Fix My Fat Loss Quiz. It takes about 60 seconds and they'll figure out where do they stand on this scale that we're talking about. So that's been super helpful, but that's what we see on the dieting side. And then on the mentality side, again, I mean, many of these women, 40, 50, 60, for generations, for decades, they've been taught that they need to watch their food through points, right? Talking about something like Weight Watchers. And if that happens at the age of 15, when their gym teacher or their mom says, hey, I think we're going to put you on a diet, you're getting a little too big. And realistically, they were just healthy. Well, now they've grown up with this thought and they know nothing about nutrition other than the fact that they're supposed to be small. They can't take up too much space. If they have too many points, it's bad. And so that is massively detrimental to simply just living an enjoyable life.
Absolutely. And I think it's psychological more than anything, sort of growing up in that era, really trying to flip the narrative that you have in your head about diet and exercise. And I know a lot of women from, the 40s to the 60s, it has been all about exercise 6-7 days a week, eat salads and nothing else. And then you'll be, the perfect looking woman. So can someone really eat more, exercise less, and still reshape that body? And how does that actually work? Because I think you're speaking to a lot of women who are going to be like, I'm calling BS on this. Like, is that true? It sounds way too good to be true. I've fought my whole life to restrict everything that I'm eating, to exercise every day. So how can I be hearing this and it resonate and say, yep, this is true? What's the science behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, if the answer is anything other than yes, I would not have a business right now because it's the only thing we've done for the past 3 to 4 years. is practice our diet detox method. So yeah, it's absolutely true. And the other piece of proof that I have is that if somebody listening resonates with what you just said, right? They've been in this cycle of constant on and off restriction and in these torturous workouts that really aren't enjoyable day to day, and they're currently not where they want to be. Well, then to get a different result, they're going to have to do something different. And so what's different from eating less and exercising more? Well, eating more and exercising less. And if nothing's gotten you to where you want to be, what is the harm in trying something different? That's generally what I always say. And to be honest with you, because I don't ever want somebody listening to me and thinking, oh, this is it. This is the next quick fix. It's not. And if you're looking for the quick fix, I recommend that you switch the channel right now, because I'm not going to give it to you, but I'll give you the long-term fix. And so what I mean by that is, if somebody works with us, they might not see these massive physical results inside of a month. Inside the first month of working with us, the scale might not move, because we're going to fix your metabolism. We're going to start boosting your muscle again. We're going to show your body that it's safe when it eats more food. And even though your body might not change, your life will. You'll have more energy. You'll focus better at work. You'll probably stop snapping at your husband. You'll sleep better, and you'll just feel all around better. And that usually is enough evidence of like, okay, something good is happening. I'm going to stick out with this for a little bit longer. And when they do is when the scale starts to drop and the clothes start to fit different, and the midsection goes away, and then everything they were looking for comes together.
And I'm assuming when you say eat more, you're not talking about eat more crap and whatever you want. It's like fueling your body with the right nutritious food, which then is going to be packed with like micronutrients and all the right things to support our hormones, to support our mental clarity, to support our muscle growth and our health. And so the physical like aspect of healing the body with nutrition, I mean, that's like one of Ayurvedic's biggest secret. It's not a secret, but Ayurveda is like food is medicine. We always work on the Agni, the digestive power, because that goes on to create the rest of your physical body and that physical vessel and your mental health because of the nutrients absorption from that food. But if you're not absorbing those nutrients because your digestive system is poor and sluggish from years of yo-yo dieting, then you're not able to hold on to those beautiful nutrients anyway. And therefore you are like overfed, but well undernourished, and sometimes underfed and undernourished. So I guess when you're talking about like the right foods to eat, it's not, oh yeah, he's saying that I can go and like have chocolate ice cream for dinner and, Tim Tams late at night. It's like really figuring out yourself, your metabolism, and eating good amounts of good food, right? I just don't want to put people on these like bum tracks where they're going, oh, sweet, I heard that I can eat what I want and do nothing.
Yes, great. You're absolutely right. No, guys, you don't have permission from Jo Hoy to go and have chocolate and whatever a Tim Tam is for the rest of your day. You can't do it because you're not going to get the result. No, I don't know what that is.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God. I forgot that.
What?
They're like Australian chocolate-coated chocolate biscuits with like creamy thing in the middle.
Oh, I see why they would want one.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like super well known. Everyone knows what a Tim Tam is here.
I'm going to give it a search. I might order some off Amazon.
Yeah.
I love that. So no, you're absolutely right. But I do want to add in a small caveat. I think that you've hit the nail on the head. Everybody should be eating more food if you're under eating and it's not serving you, but also the right foods, right? Those micronutrient dense foods. But at the same time, I don't want anybody to be a robot, because while the trendy diets and restrictive diets haven't worked, guess what else isn't good? Eating more food and restricting yourself from things that you like but may not be ideal. And so what I like is a nice mix, right? We should obviously have the majority of our foods be real foods that come from this earth and serve us with vitamins and micronutrients. But at the same time, guys, if you're doing great, go have a damn Tim Tam and enjoy it, and don't feel bad about it, because we also want to enjoy this life. So that's where my head's at. I'm sure you'd agree.
Oh, it's so true. That's why I'm like, yes, I'm nodding my head. Absolutely. Like I said, we do need to bring that sort of joy into our life as well, and not not be in the fear of deep, deep restriction and deprivation, because life is meant to be enjoyed. But I guess, again, that sort of like comes back to that mental conditioning. There's like that fear or the all or nothing, you know. Some women will say, I can't have it in my house because if I do, the whole packet of Tim Tams will be gone. I can't just have one. I guess we could wrap it up, like looking at it from that emotional and mental aspect, and even like that spiritual aspect. But what are some of the biggest mental roadblocks that are holding people back from real change? Like there's sometimes, you know, I mean, there's so many, it's such a broad question, but I'm thinking along the lines of women who are self-sabotaging themselves, women who don't want to make the effort to do the change, or who are too scared to create that effort, who are so stuck on having to get on the treadmill or the cross trainer 7 days a week still. Like it's just such an emotional, they don't have that emotional flexibility to do what you're saying. What is some of those biggest mental roadblocks that are preventing them, and how can they move through them if they're listening today?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You hit the nail on the head with one of them, and that's going to be the all or nothing mindset for anything. Well, I missed Tuesday's workout, so I'm not going to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And because of that, I'm not going to go for the rest of this month either. That doesn't make any sense. Same thing with diet, right? Well, dang, I had one handful of M's at the break room at work. I'm just going to go home and have whatever I want, right? And that just absolutely kills people, because just because you went 1% off track doesn't mean you need to go 100% off track. And just because you missed Tuesday's workout, well, guess what? If you're listening to what Harmony and I just said, you don't need to work out 7 days this week. You only need to go 3. And so now you have so many opportunities to still get in your 3 days, be perfect for the week, and enjoy yourself. So if you wake up, you're not feeling your workout, I'll tell you, I do this frequently. Let your head hit the pillow again, go back to bed and hit it the next day, because that might be your body telling you need rest. The good news is a lot of times what we find is that goes away when you allow people or give people permission to not be perfect, right? Because oftentimes like they're looking to us for guidance or leadership. And when we say, hey, you know, it's okay. Like I know it's your husband's birthday or it's your anniversary and I know you're going to have a drink. Go have that drink. And oftentimes what we find is if we allow a drink or a brownie or a Tim Tam, then what happens is they have that one with permission. They don't have that guilt or that shame. They enjoy it in the present moment, and they find that they actually don't need to have the rest of the sleeve or the package, which is massive.
Absolutely. Well, I think you have awakened a lot of listeners on this podcast today, and full of amazing information. If there was one piece of advice that you want to give someone who is maybe feeling a little bit stuck in the cycle of dieting, what would it be? Where could they start today?
Number one, I think that most people don't move into making a choice until the level of discomfort in their current state outweighs the level of discomfort from not knowing what exists in the future. And so oftentimes starting something new is scary, especially if you tell yourself you failed multiple times in the past. But what I can promise you is that the way we do things, by allowing you to have more food freedoms and eat more food and rest more and work out less, is just so much more enjoyable than what most people are living in right now, that you can take that step, life gets better and more fun, and you also see results. So take the first step, because oftentimes the anticipation is so much harder than the actual action or work. Right. And so step into the action and you're good.
So true. Clarity comes through action, and we can get so much in our head beforehand, but we don't know what we're doing until we actually, implement and start to embody all the advice. So thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you if they would love to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, very searchable anywhere on the internet. You can just search Jo Hoy. On Instagram, it's jo.diet detox. And then again, if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I wonder if this is me that he's talking about. I feel like it is. Harmony, I'll send you a link to the quiz. We can put that inside the show notes. And again, guys, it's a free 60-second quiz called Fix My Fat Loss. It'll tell you where you are. Like, do you need a diet detox? Can you dive straight into weight loss? If you can, what's the next best step? And hopefully this can help all of your listeners.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom with us and weight loss tips. Thank you so much.
Thank you.